Welcome to the Vault XL and thank you for joining me. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and have a prosperous new week. This commentary is pertaining to Natalia Grace. She's a female who is now deemed an adult and was alleged to have been a grown up pretending to be a child in the custody of the Barnetts, who are no longer her providers, parent role models. Both parents have divorced, Christine and Michael Barnett, and allegedly living in Canada. A few years ago, Dr. Phil interviewed Natalia Grace and the adoptive family who has taken her in. And I'm going to read you a bit of that information pertaining to where she is now, and then I will play you that interview. Each day, I will bring you commentary pertaining to the new documentary that has been aired at the end of May. And after that run of that documentary, you will then get a glimpse into the life of this young lady via her own mouth. Later this summer, the same network will air Natalia Grace Speaks, and it will be a 2-hour documentary. ET is the source of this information I'm going to bring to you now. Following the 3-night run of the curious case of Natalia Grace, the Investigation Discovery ID docuseries recounting the unbelievably true story surrounding Michael Barnett and Christine Barnett's adoption of an adult who was accused of pretending to be a 6-year-old Ukrainian orphan, Natalia Grace, is opening up in the all-new 2-hour documentary, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, Natalia Speaks. This is my side of the story, and I'm going to say what happened because I never got a chance to say what happened, Natalia says. Ahead of its premiere later this summer, ET has an exclusive extended preview at what Natalia has to say about what really happened to her after being adopted by the Barnetts, and addresses the allegation the family made against her while she was living with them. The things that Christine and Michael have said that I have done is a lie. I have never done anything that Christine and Michael have said that I have done, Natalia says in the clip, referring to the many allegations the couple has brought against their formerly adopted daughter. In 2010, the Indiana couple thought they had adopted a 6-year-old orphan girl from Ukraine. 2010, it's now 23, that'd be 13 years. So 13 plus 6 would mean she would be 19. So what is the truth? Very interesting information. Let me finish this. Not realizing she had a form of dwarfism called, it's a very long word, spondylophysio, I can't pronounce the word. The Barnetts became suspicious that their newest family member was not actually a child. In addition to claiming that Natalia showed physical signs of being much older than a toddler, Michael and Christine Barnett accused her of trying to, harm them and their children. During the 2 years Natalia lived with them, they claimed that she tried to poison Christine and push Michael into an electric fence. But we know that it was allegedly Christine that she was allegedly supposed to push into a fence. So this part of this information is not correct. But anyway, eventually believing that she was in fact an adult, they had her legal age changed from 6 to 22. And by 2013, the Barnett family moved to Canada while they left Natalia behind in an apartment in Lafayette, Indiana. Michael and Christine, who are now divorced, were eventually charged with abandoning Natalia before Michael was found not guilty of 3 counts of neglect and conspiracy to commit neglect of a dependent in 2022, while charges against Christine were dropped in March of 2023. Natalia, meanwhile, has since been adopted by a new couple, Antoine Mans and Cynthia Mans. Excuse me. Screen jumping off. In 2016, they became her legal guardians. They also maintain that she is a teenager. All of this is recounted in a 3-part ID true crime docuseries, which features interviews with Natalia's adoptive family, including one of Michael and Christine's sons, Jacob Barnett, as well as relatives, friends, and neighbors. First debuting on Monday, May 29th. The series concluded on Wednesday, May 31st. It will then be followed later by Natalia Speaks. You can ask anybody in my family now. You can ask Bishop Antoine and Cynthia Mans that just asked them, has she ever done anything? They will tell you who I really am. They're not going to lie, and neither am I, Natalia says in an extended look at her upcoming special. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating to hear everything that's being said from Christine and Michael. And because I already don't know who I am, I want to know who I am and what happened to me. But I'm hearing all this stuff that never actually happened from Christine and Michael, she goes on to say. I'm like, it's shocking and it's frustrating because that's not even true. And people are believing what Christine and Michael are saying without even hearing my side. Natalia concludes by adding, y'all have heard from Christine and Michael and what they have said, but you need to hear both sides in order to know what happened. In the years since Natalia's story became a national media sensation, the orphan horror movies starring Vera Farmiga and Julia Stiles have loosely based a prequel on what supposedly happened during her time with the Barnett family. Additionally, Ellen Pompeo is set to star in an 8-part scripted Hulu series from executive producer Katie Robbins and showrunner Aaron Levy. Pompeo will portray Christine, while Imogen Reed will portray Natalia. So very interesting. There will be an 8-part scripted Hulu series. So we'll see how that goes. The special Natalia Speaks will air later this summer following the finale of The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, which aired Wednesday, May 31st at 9 p.m. on Investigation Discovery. Hello, everybody in the chat. What I'm about to play for you is the Dr. Phil interview that aired in the winter of November 19. You will hear from Natalia. You also hear from the couple who brought her in and adopted her. The information I have is that she is legally adopted by this couple. She is deemed a teenager in their eyes. So if she was 6 in 2010, it is now 23. That would have been, 13 years ago. That would put her at 19. Not in her 20s and not in her 30s. They are deeming her to be around 33, 36. I do not know what the truth is, and I'm not here to dispute it either way. I will now play for you the Dr. Phil interview. Thank you for your time. Please check my library for the first episode discussion, The Curious Case of Natalia. I aired that earlier today. I will bring you later part 2 of that episode, possibly by tomorrow. Each day I will play an episode for you. I've also shared it to my community board via another network. Thank you for your time. Let's see what she has to say to Dr. Phil. 1 second, please. Hello, everybody in the chat.
I just wanted people to hear my side.
In a Dr. Phil exclusive.
A story making headlines around the world.
Was this adopted Ukrainian orphan?
Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
Masquerading as a 6-year-old child.
Christine Barnett tells us the girl she adopted was no child at all, but a fraud who tried to kill her family.
She's painted you as an evil dwarf to go poison their coffee or stab them in their sleep.
Natalia would simply tell us very coldly and very directly, I'm trying to kill the boys.
Now,
They say you scammed them, lied about your age, and terrorized them.
she speaks out
Is that shit off?
for the first time.
Why did they want to get rid of you so badly?
Christine Barnett is being charged with neglect after allegedly dumping her daughter in an Indiana apartment.
A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me.
The questions for her new family.
Were you at all concerned that we could be putting the children that we have in jeopardy?
The Dr. Phil exclusive.
I guess it comes down to whether or not you are an evil psychopath demon child that's come over here to murder everybody. It's a story that some have called a real-life version of the horror film Orphan. A family charged with abandoning their 9-year-old adopted daughter, leaving her to fend for herself in an apartment all alone when she was just a child. Or was she? Christine and Michael Barnett say when they adopted 6-year-old Natalia Grace, a little girl born with dwarfism from the Ukraine, Their dreams of having a daughter quickly turned into a nightmare. They claim that with mounting horror, they began to suspect Natalia wasn't a child at all, but a sociopathic adult who tried to kill them. They allege that when they took Natalia to doctors who tested her bone density, it was determined she was much older. They went to court, and Natalia was declared a 22-year-old adult, and the Barnetts left her in an apartment all by herself in Indiana.
Now a story making headlines around the world.
Is this the face of a child or a woman posing as a child? So here's why this is so complicated. The family says they were told the girl was 8 when they adopted her in 2010 from Ukraine. They claim she has dwarfism and that tests revealed she is much older.
Daily Mail TV got an exclusive interview with Natalia's adoptive mother.
We were told in the medical paperwork that we had that she was 6 years old.
Natalia's behavior also became very disturbing.
She was hiding knives in her couches. She was talking about she was going to kill family members.
According to Barnett, Natalia allegedly tried to poison his wife with a household cleaning product.
She had poured the pine sol in her coffee. She just says blatantly, plainly, no emotion, I'm trying to kill you. I want you dead.
It was at that point that the Barnetts said they had enough.
And mother and father are accused of abandoning their own adopted daughter.
Barnett and his ex-wife, Christine Barnett, surrendered on 2 felony counts each of neglect of a dependent. Prosecutors say in 2013, the couple rented an apartment in this house for their adoptive daughter and then moved to Canada.
The Barnetts paid a year's rent for Natalia. He says Natalia is capable of taking care of herself since, in his opinion, she is an adult pretending to be a child.
That there was a level of manipulation, con artistry, danger, attempted murder.
The Burnetts, who have since divorced, are facing serious charges. They'll argue together the adoption was all a scheme.
Is this child a child or a grown woman?
Natalia insists she was a child when she was left alone in that apartment, and she says she never tried to kill them. Today, in an exclusive interview, Natalia speaks out for the very first time, along with Cynthia and Antoine Mans, the family who has taken her in. Is this an evil orphan or a little girl left all alone? That's going to be for you to decide. There's been a lot of controversy, obviously, about your age because of the family that you were with before. How old are you?
I'm 16.
You're 16?
Yes.
When is your birthday?
September 4th, 2003.
Okay. And what exactly is your disorder?
I have dwarfism. It's called dystrophic dysplasia.
Dystrophic dysplasia?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Along with scoliosis.
And the scoliosis is in addition?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you come to America?
I was 6 years old when I came to the United States.
You came as part of a program, right?
I just know that a family came and visited me, and then after a while, they adopted me.
Okay, so they visited you in the Ukraine?
Yes.
What were your living conditions in the Ukraine? Were you in a group home?
I don't really know what it was. I just know there was a lot of kids, and there were some caregivers.
And where did you first live?
I was in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yes.
And how long did you stay with that family?
2 years.
How many families do you think you were with total?
I actually don't really remember all the families, but Christine said that I was with at least like 30 families. Like one was in New York, and then some other places. I don't remember what she said.
30 families? Like for a couple of days? And...
I don't know. I don't remember being with that many families.
So when you went to the family in New Hampshire and you left there, why did you leave there?
I think it happened because they had 2 boys, and one of the boys, me and him were really close, so we like wrestled almost, but I landed on his arm wrong, so mom thought I was trying to break his arm. So that's when she was like, I can't do this anymore.
And when she said she can't do this anymore, what was this? What did she mean, I can't do this anymore?
I don't know.
Has she been frustrated with you before?
I don't really know what it was with them.
So you left there and went to another family for how long?
I don't remember all the families. I just remember this one family that, because I was with them the most.
And what was their name?
They were the DePauls.
DePauls. And how'd it go there?
It was good. Me and their daughter, we were close.
And why did you not stay there?
I think it was like a money issue.
Yeah, and thinking about the Barnetts, when you first went there, were you happy?
I was.
Were they happy with you?
Yes.
Did you feel loved there?
I did.
Feel like you belonged?
Yes, I actually thought I had found the right family after bouncing around from a lot of families. I thought I had found the right family for me.
So this was your home?
Yes.
They accepted you?
Yes. The first clue
You
was
felt
yes.
safe there?
Yes.
What was your first clue that it was heading down a bad road?
It was after my surgery when she started questioning about my age. And then, like, everything started happening after that one moment.
Michael and Christine Barnett claim Natalia tried to poison their coffee, stood over their bed as they slept, told them she wanted to kill the children, and even tried to push Christine into an electric fence. Daily Mail TV got an exclusive interview with Natalia's adoptive mother. I wanted Natalia to respond to what Christine Barnett had to say. You've seen some of this, but I want to give you a chance to respond to it.
This was, from day one, a mission of love. We were told in the medical paperwork that we had that she was 6 years old.
Okay. Now, in the medical paperwork they had, they were told she was 6 years old. And then they say that you're a scam artist. You didn't give them the medical paperwork. Someone had to provide that. If there's a scam here, it doesn't emanate from you.
Right.
Here's another one.
I was putting her into the bathtub, and I noticed that she had full pubic hair. I noticed clothing in her closet that contained at least some remnants of a menstrual cycle.
Okay, and she's talking about at this time you were supposedly 8 years old?
Yeah, I was almost 8.
And she noticed these secondary sexual characteristics. Did she talk to you about that?
No.
She's been with us for almost 7 years. To this day, she does not have a menstrual.
Not one.
Christine did not say anything about bloody clothing or anything to me. And she said that I had one, and she had me use a tampon, and ever since then I've never.
So she had you use a tampon one time?
Yes. And there was spottage, I guess, I don't know why. And she's like, see, that's blood. And that's probably.
Yeah.
She was hiding knives in our couches. She was talking about she was going to kill family members. She's standing in the middle of the room and she would say, I'm waiting for the right time to poison people. She put chemicals in the coffee.
Did any of that happen?
No. She said that I hid knives on top of the fridge, under the fridge, in the cabinets, even on her office desk.
How did you get something on top of the refrigerator?
I can't even reach it. Not even with a chair, I couldn't reach it.
You can't get to the top of the refrigerator, right?
No, I can't.
You were cleaning.
Yes.
You're helping her clean.
Yes.
And she says you sprayed bleach in her coffee.
It was lemon pledge for tables.
And she actually has footage of you doing that.
So we had missed a spot. So what I did was I scooted the chair over so I could get up there, and I scooted her coffee back so I could grab the thing because it was in front of it. So I scooted it back, and I grabbed it. She came out and was like, "What are you doing?" And then she claimed that I tried to spray it in her coffee. You could look in her coffee. There was nothing.
Did you ever stand at the foot of their bed, around their bed, in their room, watch them sleep with a knife in your hand?
Coming up,
they say to you when they took you over there and dropped you off?
They just said, we're going to get you an apartment and we're going to Canada.
Did you say, I'm 8?
Ukrainian orphan, child or adult sociopath. A Dr. Phil exclusive continues.
She would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs. So when we would walk up and downstairs, we would be stepping on thumbtacks. Certain things would start to become missing in the home. We would find knives under her bed. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand. Very blank look on her face. And she's just standing there with a knife.
Did you ever stand at the foot of their bed, around their bed, in their room, watch them sleep with a knife in your hand?
No, never.
Did you ever want to stab them?
No,
Did you ever make plans to stab them?
no. If I ever went in the room, it was to wake them up because I was either scared of a nightmare or something like that. But I never went in their room.
Was there any reason that they would have like nanny cam footage, hidden camera footage of you standing at the end of the bed with a knife in your hand?
No.
If they had it, they would have produced it, right?
Right.
She said you tried to push her into an electric fence.
It was the youngest birthday, so we went to the farm because he likes cows. And then we started walking. I got like a quarter of the way and I sat down.
And
Because-
where were you?
It was like a trail on a farm.
Yeah.
And so I sat down because my legs hurt really bad. So Christine had Michael and the boys go up ahead of us. She sat down next to me and was like, Natalia, you need to get up. So she got up and she was helping me, trying to help me get up, but I fell again and she fell with me. And the electric fence wasn't that far from us.
So you guys fell and she said you
Yes.
tried to push her in
Yeah,
the
it wasn't that far.
It's terrible that they're trying to make her out to be this monster.
You have had Natalia with you for how long?
Well, 6 years, but
Almost
7.
Now, you two met her on the neighbor's porch.
Yes. And my friend called me and was like, you need to come down here right away. So I go over there and she said, she's telling me she's 22. Like, look at her. She's not 22. And I go, are you 22? She said, yeah. But you could tell that it was just like, yeah, because I was told,
That's what I'm
yeah.
supposed to say.
Mm-hmm. So I go, okay. And she said, I have my own apartment. And I'm like, no, you don't. And she's like, I do. And I'm like, show me. So she took me over to her house, and it was definitely her apartment. She had a bed in there. She had a TV. She had like some boxed food in her freezer. I was like, well, you know, I have a couple kids at home. Come on down. You can play with them, talk with us, whatever. So she came to our house and hung out down there, and she never left. She's been with us ever since.
Is that like you to do something like that?
We do
You just
help.
find this random person on the street and say, come hang out with us?
Well, not typically. We help a lot of people, but my motherly heart was like, there's no way she can take care of herself. I was like, I can't just leave her there.
How old were you at that time?
I was 8 years old, maybe almost 9.
So at 8 years old, you're living alone in an apartment.
Yes.
And you're getting your own groceries.
I actually didn't even go grocery shopping. My landlord took me to it was like a gas station or something just to pick up a couple things.
Well, where'd you get your food?
The Barnetts, they had given me like food that they didn't really eat, like canned foods and stuff like that.
And how long had you been in the apartment when you...
It wasn't that long. I think maybe about a month and a half.
Okay. Well, I have a granddaughter about that age, and I can't imagine her living in an apartment by herself. What did they say to you when they took you over there and dropped you off?
They just said, we're going to get you an apartment and we're going to Canada.
Did you say, I'm 8?
I didn't know what to say. I didn't really know what was going on at first. until like after it happened. Like I was confused.
Were you scared?
I was. I didn't really like want to leave the apartment, but I had to go to school.
So you went to school?
Yes.
How far was the school?
Maybe about a block away from the house.
So this is a new school?
Yes.
An adult school.
Christine, she had signed me up right after I moved in, after that day.
And then when you met her, she was in her second apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And you stayed in that first apartment for a year at 8 years old.
Yes.
It sounds like you were in a group home in the Ukraine. And you come here when you're 6. And here's what I know about children that are in group homes. They're almost always developmentally delayed. So if you come here from a group home at 6, best case, you're probably functioning at developmentally at 4 or 5. So you go into an apartment functioning at 6 or 7.
Hello, everybody.
A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me. How does that happen?
Coming up.
Natalia would simply tell us very coldly and very directly, I'm trying to kill the boys.
Have any of the things that this prior family alleged that she's done happened at your home?
And later,
they say that you scammed them, lied about your age, and came over here and terrorized them.
Turn to Dr. Phil's exclusive interview, Ukrainian orphan, child or adult sociopath.
The mom accused of adopting and abandoning a little girl from the Ukraine. Christine Barnett is being charged with neglect after allegedly dumping her daughter in an Indiana apartment, then moving her entire family to Canada.
So if you come here from a group home at 6, best case, you're probably functioning at developmentally at 4 or 5. So you go into an apartment functioning at 6 or 7. A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me. How does that happen?
I think that she groomed her before she did this to have her ready for this.
But in terms of activities of daily living, health, food, stove, working with an oven, a 6-year-old child just simply doesn't know how to do the activities of daily living for independent existence.
Well, I know in the apartment when we met her, she didn't use the stove. She cooked in the microwave.
Did she teach you a routine?
She didn't really teach me like how to like take care of myself, but she did say like if someone asks you how old you are, you tell them that you're 22.
And who paid the bills?
Michael.
So all you had to do was go stay behind that closed door. Why did they want to get rid of you so badly?
I don't know.
You know, you leave one family because they say you were violent with the boy and almost broke his arm. And then you're with another family and they say, well, you tried to poison her, threatened to stab him. You've had her now for 6 or 7 years?
It's almost 7 years.
In this 6 or 7 years, have any of the things that she has been accused of doing, that this prior family has alleged that she's done, happened at your home?
No, not at all. She would get into trouble just like any normal child would. She didn't display any kind of psychotic behavior.
We've had 3 kids since she's been with us. She's been there for the delivery of one, literally in the delivery room when her brother was born. She's amazing.
What I believe is that she tried to discredit her with instability mentally. And when she could not do that, they re-aged her.
This is the conclusion I came to. Natalia needs surgeries. And I think because they have Jacob, he's autistic, and they wanted to do the college. And I feel like Christine's aim was to get rid of her because with her having her surgeries, she wasn't going to be able to go and do everything she wanted to do because surgery is going to hold this baby down. So I think Christine felt like it was a burden, but I think Christine felt she wasn't even going to be able to be this role model mother
Yeah.
that she was until this came out.
I believe that there is something that she is hiding.
Yeah.
That she didn't want to get out. Because when we got her, the first thing she said, we got a call from Christine.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, well, take her to a psychiatric facility and get her evaluated because she's crazy and don't believe a word she has to say.
Another thing is when I was living in my first apartment, she actually had me call the police on myself. Like, she told me to call them and tell them that I wanted to hurt others and I wanted to hurt myself. And they came, they put me in handcuffs, and they took me to one of the psychiatric hospitals, and I was out that same night. They said that I wasn't crazy like she's saying and all that.
They say that you scammed them, that you lied about your age and came over here and terrorized them.
Coming up.
Here's what America's asking themselves right now. You say you're 16. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
Ukrainian orphan, child or adult sociopath. A Dr. Phil exclusive continues.
My wife Christine would take the entire family, my 3 sons, along with Natalia, downtown. Natalia had already found something that meant something very important to each of my boys. My youngest son, who was 6, was into cows, so she found his favorite cow toy. My 9-year-old son liked cars, so she found his favorite car toys. As they would be crossing a very, very busy street, she would launch everything up into the air, into traffic. They would instantly run into traffic to try to retrieve their items. Natalia would simply tell us very coldly and very directly, I'm trying to kill the boys.
They say that you scammed them, that you lied about your age and came over here and terrorized them.
It's not true at all.
And if that were true, it would have been exhibited with you. You haven't seen that.
Right.
And we have other children. We have a grandson. She does nothing but loves her siblings and her nephew. She has never showed any signs of those things that they say she did.
She acts just like a big sister. She makes bottles for them. She gets their clothes if she needs to. She makes them lunch sometimes. Yeah.
Everything that the next brother or sister would do for their siblings, she does.
Here's what America's asking themselves right now.
Okay.
Here's this obviously very nice couple. And they've got a 14-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a newborn on the way. And they're moving in a child that somebody's saying she could look okay one minute and be psychotic the next. Were you at all concerned at the time that we could be putting the children that we have in jeopardy?
We were not.
I didn't get that impression because when I seen Natalia, I looked at her physical disability as well. Just her behavior in itself did not come off in any kind of manner. And I'm usually the one that's like, hold on, wait a minute. Let's be careful about, I'm usually that type of person. I did not get that at all from her.
Yeah.
Me and my husband adopted these kids. It's like, who would do it if you don't? Who will help if you don't? We've done this with other people as well. You know, Natalia's not the first person we brought in our house like that.
You say you're 16. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
No. 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 I promise you I'm not.
But you understand the inconsistencies here, because if somebody asked me, can you drop an 8-year-old child off in an apartment for a year and come back and they'll be doing fine, I would say absolutely not.
Right.
But yet that's what we're expected to believe here, that without cash, credit cards, physical abilities to do certain things, that she just functioned fine in an apartment for a year. That's hard to believe.
We get that. But when she stayed in her first apartment, they were there more. It was the second apartment. I believe if we wouldn't have met her, it would have been terrible for her.
Okay, so the Barnetts, Christine and Michael, you say had her re-aged
Yes.
and declared 22.
22.
And you told people you were 22.
Yes.
Why did you tell people you were 22?
Coming up.
I guess it comes down to whether or not you are an evil psychopath demon child that's come over here to murder everybody.
Child or adult sociopath? A Dr. Phil exclusive continues.
Another couple is coming forward to say they wanted to adopt the child and they can prove her real age.
It's the mystery captivating the nation. Is Natalia a 16-year-old or a 30-year-old woman pretending to be a teenager? The DePauls showed me stacks of adoption paperwork that lists Natalia's official birth date. Date of birth, 9/4/2003. According to this, she's 16 years old. There are people out there who think she's 30.
That's ridiculous.
So the Barnetts, Christine and Michael, you say had her re-aged
Yes.
and declared 22.
22.
And you told people you were 22.
Yes.
Why did you tell people you were 22?
That's just what I was told to say. Like if someone asked how old I was,
Uh-huh.
that's just what
Who
they.
told you to say that?
The Barnetts did.
The Barnetts did. And so then you go to Michigan and they do tests, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And they came back and concluded that she was how old?
14.
14 years old.
14 at the time, not 22.
Right.
Yeah, because they
There's
were
been
saying
tests and
that
everything from 14 to 33.
they were saying that she has growth plates. She got room where she's still growing, and she was losing teeth too when we had her. So she had baby teeth.
Now they tell us because of her dysplasia that she has, that they can't figure out the age she is. So they can't make her back to 16. How were they able to make her 22 though?
It was 3 times. I remember first it was 11 to 14, and then it was 16 to 18, and then it was finally 22.
If they claim they don't have sufficient evidence to overturn it to bring her back to a child, then why would you overturn it to bring her to an adult?
Well, here's the thing. In 2010, Children's Hospital says you're 8, not 6. 2012, the bone density test says you're 11, not 8. In 2012, the Barnett family doctor says both your bones and teeth prove you're 14, not 8. All of that, assume it's all true. If she's still a child, why would she lie?
Right.
So I'm saying, what's the motive for you to lie? All the tests confirm what you say within a range.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. There's this big debate about how old you are. To me, it doesn't make any difference. You're a human being that needs love and caring and nurturance. It doesn't make any difference to me if you're 43 or 14. It doesn't make any difference to you, does it?
No.
Right.
Not at all.
Absolutely.
Not at all.
No,
Yeah,
no.
you're right.
But it mattered to the Barnetts, right? Why did she care?
I don't know.
I mean, she cared about you. What difference does it make how old you are?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
Yeah, if you're 8, I love you. If you're 14, I don't. So I guess it comes down to whether or not you are an evil psychopath demon child that's come over here to murder everybody.
Coming up.
There's been a page torn from Hollywood here with this movie, The Orphan. This Russian woman, 30 years old, pretends to be a teen, gets adopted by a family, comes in, terrorizes them, and you've been thrust into that drama.
Child or adult sociopath? A Dr. Phil exclusive continues.
So I guess it comes down to whether or not you are an evil psychopath demon child that's come over here to murder everybody.
Oh my. You're right.
I mean, she's painted you as an evil sociopath. Some evil dwarf is going to pop up and poison their coffee or stab them in their sleep or whatever. But if that's true, I guess they brought out the worst in you because you certainly haven't tried to murder you two. Well, let's assume they've made all of this up. And, oftentimes there's this person's version, this person's version, and the full truth is somewhere in between.
Right.
Because nobody ever gets it all correct. There's been a page torn from Hollywood here with this movie, The Orphan. This Russian woman, right next door to Ukraine, is 30 years old, pretends to be a teen, gets adopted by a family, comes in, terrorizes them, creates all this havoc. And here we've got this individual from Ukraine that has been said to be as much as 33, comes in, terrorizes his family, and you've been thrust into that drama.
Yeah.
And if Christine has made all of this up, she wasn't very creative. She tore it from this movie.
I was just going to say that because The Orphan came out 1 year before they did this to her, literally.
But what confounds all of that is you've been 7 years with these people, no drama, no problem. So you're 16, but legally how old are you?
30. I don't even feel 30. I am not 30.
What do you think should happen to the Barnetts? They're being criminally prosecuted, they've been charged at least. What do you think should happen to them?
Coming up.
This is my daughter who I gave birth to. I know exactly how old she is.
Now turn to Dr. Phil's exclusive interview. Ukrainian orphan, child, or adult sociopath.
What do you think should happen to the Barnetts? Christine and Michael, they're being criminally prosecuted, they've been charged at least. What do you think should happen to them?
I just want them to give up on the whole charade. Like, I don't want them to just keep on with this. I just want it to be over. I want them to be able to have their normal lives back after this is all over and they did their time.
So you think they should go to jail for abandoning a child, endangering a child, whatever the charges might be?
Like, I don't want them to, but with what happened, it's not right to do that to a child. I don't want it to happen to anybody. I don't speak that on anybody. But if it did have to come to that, then they should do the responsible thing, do their time, and then get it over with and get right with God.
What do you think should happen to them?
I do believe that they should serve some time for what they did. My hope is that this will never happen to another child again.
You think it should be prosecuted?
I think they should be prosecuted and they should serve their time. I think that they should know that what they did was wrong. But above all, I want them to know that our family still loves them. We pray for them.
I just want people to know who Natalia is without somebody else trying to paint a picture of her, of who they think she is because of the media. But that she is a genuine and loving young lady who just been through a horrible situation.
The hardest thing that you have to deal with now is you don't come across as 16 years old. She was forced to grow up ahead of her time. And so you come across as much more mature than a 16-year-old.
Even when I was still a child, I kind of had a childhood, but I was bounced around from so many families that it didn't seem real. So once that happened, I really I felt like I was already robbed of my childhood, but when I got re-aged, that's when it really hit hard.
I just want to say that I love my daughter and I'll be happy when the truth comes out.
Right. How about you?
I don't want people to see me as what they have been saying I am. I want them to see my personality. I want them to see me, not what people are saying. I don't want them to be scared to come to me and say hi because of what they read. I want them to see the genuine me, and I want them to see how my little sister and my little brother see me.
Yes.
I think you're taking a giant step in that direction today.
So thankful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you giving Natalia a voice. So we know you're a big supporter of children and have done great things in that department.
Well, I'm proud to do it, and I'm I'm very impressed with you. You're a very impressive young woman. Since the taping of this interview, Natalia's reported birth mother spoke to DailyMail.com and Daily Mail TV in the Ukraine. This is from their exclusive interview.
This is my daughter who I gave birth to 16 years ago. She is 16 years old. I gave birth to her on September 4, 2003 at 6:25 a.m. in the maternity hospital.
Natalia has told us she would be willing to reunite with her birth mother if I could arrange it, and that is something that we are working on. We reached out to Christine Barnett, and she declined our invitation to appear on the show. The Barnetts have both pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of felony neglect of a dependent. Michael Barnett has filed a motion to dismiss the charges against him. They are prohibited from speaking to the media pursuant to a gag order. According to court documents, the case is scheduled for a jury trial in January of 2020. We will continue to follow this story and we will keep you updated. For more information, go to drphil.com. Thanks for watching.
All right, everybody, that is Dr. Phil. Thank you all so much for your time. With this being a few years old, 2019, November 2019, there has been a conclusion pertaining to Michael and Christine. Michael was found not guilty, and the charges against Christine were dismissed. Lots of allegations against this young lady, but the one point I want to drive home is what Dr. Phil said. How would you have been able to fool these people and get documentation to be whatever age? And that is so true. If the documentation came from the Ukraine with her to the first original family, which you hear the DePauls mentioning that, and they would have been family number 2, then that's all you have to go on. And you will hear that in the documentary. You'll hear more from the DePauls in the documentary and the allegations from the first family. I believe they're an Italian family. And it seems like to me that they were trying to scam people in selling this girl child. Now, what are the other reasons some of the families didn't want her? Because we don't really have an exact number of how many people had access to the child. But you can use deduction, as you hear Dr. Phil say. Trauma in a group home setting. You don't know how she was treated in the Ukraine. She's probably not getting enough attention because there were probably so many children in an orphanage. That's common sense. Okay? Genetics. What type of people she came from, derived from. And then she's brought over here and bounced around from place to place, hoping to be in a family unit. And I'll be the first family. They're the cause of this, okay? Because you went and got her, allegedly. This child says they went over there. So why did you go over there, bring her back, and then try to sell her to the DePauls? Because in the documentary, you're going to hear they tried to sell the girl to them, but they didn't have the money, so they had to send her back. You will hear that in episode, I believe, number 2, and I will probably play that tomorrow. This is disturbing, but let's chop up what was said in the Dr. Phil documentary. Thank you for your time. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. At least 30 families, allegedly. She doesn't remember any of them. She remembers the DePauls. They were a good family. The first family, New Hampshire, I believe those are the ones that were trying to barter her off on other families. They visited Ukraine, brought her here with them in New Hampshire for 2 years, left there, and then went to the DePauls. And I believe there was a discrepancy with the money. They couldn't afford it. And as I said, when you listen to the documentary, you'll hear the husband tell you, he was a little leery. He has the gift of discernment. He felt creeped out about the situation between that mother and the girl child, that something may have been wrong with either one or both. The part that's bothersome about the story is that everybody has a different version of Natalia. Some negative, some positive. Most has been really negative. by most of the people interviewed for the documentary all the way up to episode 3. So I have a few more episodes to finish. But most of it's negative. Except for the man, who you hear here, African-American man and a Caucasian woman who have taken in children. Allegations from one family that she tried to break a child's arm. She said they were wrestling. Next family, the DePauls. It was good, but she believed there was a money issue. Then she gets to the Barnett's house. She was happy at first until it was time to get all these surgeries. And perhaps there's some truth to what Miss Mans was saying. It would have been a financial burden, but allegedly these people were well off. Let Mr. Michael tell it in the documentary. You're driving a Lamborghini. You can't afford a couple $1,000 to help your child who's in need that you love, allegedly. And you hear his mother saying he was so ecstatic to get this kid, but yet, what? She was a problem. And perhaps it was about money. We don't have the money to fix her feet, fix her legs. Oh, she also has some mental issues. Angry. We don't know because we're not there. We also find it interesting that, as Dr. Fields says, where are the videos of all these allegations of a period, a cycle, of this? Where are the videos? Because right now you're just spinning a web. She's this, she's this, she's this. Bring a receipt. Because as he said in this commentary, you got a version, she's got a version. And somewhere the truth is in the middle. What is the truth? Disgusting commentary about wearing a tampon. Naturally, if you put a tampon inside of a child who has not had sex, yes, she would bleed. You're sticking something in her private part and there's nothing that's been up there. Come on now. Poisoning the coffee. She explains that. She was helping her clean and sprayed pledge by accident in the coffee. This husband says, to his knowledge, she's never had a period in 7 years she's been with them. Both parents say this to Dr. Field. Living on her own at about 8 years of age. Been with the Barnetts for 2 years at the age of 6. Disturbing. Why was she going from apartment to apartment? You're going to hear more of that in the documentary. Being starved, basically. Food stamp fraud is what I want to call it. Because one minute you hear a woman saying she had a food stamp card, the next minute you're hearing she didn't have any food. So did they take the card from her? That was mentioned in the documentary. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it's all going to make sense once you watch the documentary. Dr. Phil asked her about going to live in an apartment. What did you say to them? She said she didn't know what to say. What could she say? Why am I here? Why are you leaving me? So they tell her, we're leaving you here. We're going to Canada. So had the couple split up at that time when they put her inside of the apartment. Went to a school for adults. First apartment for a year. This new adoptive mom believes that Christine groomed her to get her ready for this apartment excursion. Because you see, somebody was putting something in her head at some point or another in the places that she lived. If we're to believe the allegations of her being overt sexually, making derogatory comments to boy children, rough housing, and also the allegations you're going to hear about her when she went to the mental institution. That is also in the documentary. She said she wasn't taught anything. I believe that because I thought about that when you hear the nasty things that were said about her hygiene in the documentary. I said, well, my goodness, they dressed her in nice clothes. In the pictures, you see her in nice clothes. So you didn't bathe her when you had her, Christine? Because even if she was on her own, she still would know how to wash herself, I would think. Unless you never taught her to wash herself. So did you ever teach her to wash herself? She can't reach a shower head. She can reach the faucets, but she can't reach a shower head. So she could never take a shower. She'd have to only take a bath. Basically, she can't even reach a sink. Stay woke, everybody. So she wouldn't know how to bathe herself. But she'd have to have a step stool just to get to the sink to just take a, as we call it, a sponge bath from the sink. My goodness. No psychotic behavior, says the new family. She's amazing with the children. Been a role model for the smaller children there. She helped take care of newborns. The husband says he believes Christine was hiding something. What was that exactly that he thinks Christine was hiding? You will learn all that in the documentary. The allegations against Michael and Christine, things that were found out that were not disclosed in these two getting adoption papers for the young Natalia. The DePauls really wanted this girl. The mother did. But as time went on, of course, the father had reservations. And once again, you'll hear all that in the documentary. And they do believe they were being scammed by the first family, the family that first went and got her from the Ukraine and took her back to New Hampshire. Once again, no threats on video. Why not? Knives in her room. Standing at the foot of their bed with a knife, threatening to kill the children, throwing toys into traffic so the children get hit, pushing Christine into a electric fence when they went on an excursion once. Tests saying this and that. One test says she's this age. This test says she's 16. All these different tests, as you hear in this documentary, well, this information with Dr. Phil. So how can you say she's 22? Now you have this mother speaking from the Ukraine. Yes, that's my child. I gave birth to her at 6 a.m. But has it been verified? We'll get to that when we get up into the documentary. This is disturbing to me. Absolutely disturbing. She feels like she's been robbed being a child. All this going from house to house. Did these people try to orchestrate a plan? Or, I don't want to say try, they did. Do you believe they orchestrated this plan to have her re-aged, make up all these wild allegations of fecal matter, urine, threatening the boys, being overt sexually, to get rid of her because they no longer wanted her for whatever reason? Because as I've told you before in the earlier content, in the earlier live, that if you've never been a foster child and you've never been in the foster care system, you have no idea what it is like to go from house to house, and the people can find any damn reason to not want to be bothered with you. So in your mind, you can go on and on about they act like they love them, they have a great life, great home. That means nothing. We have seen time and time again children being abused by their foster care parents, adoptive parents, biological parents abusing their children. So why would you be stunned that a person would adopt a kid and then decide they don't want them for whatever reason? Did they have her re-aged, as I said, to get rid of her? We set this up, set up the allegations against her, go get a doctor to say, yeah, she's older, she's a teenager, take this before a judge, and then he re-ages her, and then they go find her an apartment. End of story. They run off into the sunset, go their separate ways as a couple, and leave this child unattended. And as Dr. Phil says, it doesn't really matter what her age is. She's still a child and she's a human being first. So in the end, it doesn't really matter what her age is. 22, 19, 16. She's a human being and she's not fit to take care of herself. And in the end, she couldn't have documented paperwork to say she was a certain age. Girl could barely walk. How do you think she got to America? How you think she got around from up the coast to down the coast to be with the Barnetts, to be with the DePauls, to be with the first family, and how many other families there were? She couldn't have done that on her own. And she would only know what to say per what somebody told her to say. And that means her age. Somebody says you're 6, you believe you're 6. Somebody says you're 8, you believe you're 8. In a discussion. At one point, she was happy to be with the Barnetts. She was happy. But she said she wanted them to give up the charade at the time of this interview with Dr. Phil. Do the right thing. And if they had to go to jail, go do their time and get it over with and get right with God. You have Mr. Mann and Mrs. Mann saying, yes, they wanted them to do jail time because what they did to her was not wrong. They pray for them. And they want people to know who she is, not who they think she is and who the media has tried to portray her as. Mrs. Mann said she wanted the truth to come out. She wants people to know how she reacts and intertwines with the children, how they love her, how they treat her, and how she treats them. They want people to know the real Natalia. My assertion of Natalia is this. Does she or did she have mental issues, overt behavior, sinister behavior, anger, mean streaks? Possibly so. But that's expected from going from house to house, home to home. Allegations being thrown at you daily, that's expected. And when you watch the documentary and watch the videos of them filming her, you will see the grand setup to get rid of her. And that's my personal opinion. All this was to get rid of her. That is the whole purpose of filming her, yet no receipt to anything diabolical on film. You don't keep someone in your house 2 years without nanny cams, video surveillance to show the diabolical behaviors, to show knives under the bed, hoarding of knives, standing at the foot of the bed with a knife. Why wouldn't you have that on film? And Dr. Phil says that right here in this commentary. Where is the video footage? How convenient they have nothing. Just a bunch of rambling and talking. But where is the damn footage? Because you couldn't produce it. See, you think talking would make people believe you. And that's an old saying. If I say it enough, you'll believe it. If I say it enough, I'll believe it. My damn self. Although I'm lying to myself and I'm lying to the public. I'm not here to say that she was not a troubled person, a troubled child. I'm sure she was. And I'm sure she had a lot of demons to carry with her. But I do believe she was coerced to say she was an adult. She was coerced to say she was sinister. She had evil thoughts. I believe Christine made her say all of those things. And you will hear this attorney in the documentary say this. If I think you've made her lie once, then I will believe you've made her lie all of the other times. Checkmate. Because the child tells you, yes, she told me to tell people I'm 22, even though I know I am not. I don't feel 22. I don't feel 30. That's the point. She only knows what's been told to her. You got to make this make sense. If they could show documentations of her entering the United States as a Ukrainian, no matter what her age was, that's on the adoption agency. That's on the orphanage. That has nothing to do with her. She's just been a pawn in the game. So does she have some jacked up ways? That's expected. I'm not even here to argue what she did and didn't do. But once you see that the people are lying, then you really can't believe all the things they've said she's done. 1 minute it's fecal matter, then the next minute on tape it's, oh yeah, I farted. She didn't say she boo-booed on herself. She said, yes, I farted. See, this is stupid to me. And you're going to hear all that in the documentary, that a lot of things alleged Others do not believe happened in the house with the Barnetts, the last family that had her. The pushing her into the fence, Christine. You'll have a guy who will tell you who's on the scene. He didn't see any of that. He didn't see any threats. He didn't hear anybody calling Christine a bitch. He sees a woman who possibly has exaggerated the situation with a little person. Because they know nobody's going to believe somebody 3 feet tall is going to knock you down. Upper body strength or not, she ain't that strong. And you'll hear the DePauls talk about that. Mrs. DePaul, who is also a dwarf, she says it. We don't have that type of strength to be pushing people down and beating up people, grown people, full-bodied people. And it sounds crazy. You're sitting here calling 911 and telling all these people, oh, I feel threatened. Oh, she pushed me down. Oh, and you're 150 pounds. Come on, get serious. You've got more weight. One punch could knock her down and put her in a coma. And why didn't you ever call the police? Checkmate. You have no video surveillance of these allegations. You never went to the police in 2 years of somebody threatening your life and your children. And then all of a sudden you take her and throw her out to the wolves to live on her own, 2 separate apartments. Do believe you committed fraud with food stamps. You didn't feed her. She was getting food from other people, begging for food from other people, doing all type of outlandish behavior because she was lonely and destitute. And you will see that in the documentary from other neighbors' assertion of dealing with her. And I don't doubt she was a nuisance. They were tired of dealing with her, tired of her coming around because she was lonely. And it doesn't matter if you were 12, 15, 35, 80. Left to your own devices, you will be lonely. You will want someone to talk to. No one's bringing you food. You have no access to food. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be thirsty. That's common sense. These people are dirty, Christine and Michael. And the exuberance of his attitude during the documentary, the overly, excessive talking and hollering and screaming, just a scream queen, a liar. You see, you have to listen to the information that's been given to you. I made no assertions pertaining to this story. I'd rather hear different people's assertions of dealing with her, and then I'll come to my decision. And I believe I've come to my decision. She was a pawn. For whatever sick reason, the first family went and got her and decided they didn't want her, and they were trying to sell her illegally, and that is against the law. And they need to be brought up on charges for trying to sell a child, traffic a child, number one. The Barnetts should have been charged for neglect of a person, whether she was a child or not. By law, she was deemed an adult, which I don't understand why that judge made that assertion. Because you hear in this commentary with Dr. Phil, teeth were falling out, which is a sign of a person being a child. The only time your teeth fall out as an adult is if you have some type of deficiency, you're eating bad food, cavities, or you're using drugs. And we don't have any information of the child using drugs. And as far as the pubic hair, I don't know. I wasn't there to say she had it. And I'm not here to say she had a cycle either. And frankly, you would think due to her disease, she wouldn't have a cycle, possibly. But I don't know more about it, so I don't want to put my stamp on that. But just saying. She didn't have the body of a full adult, hormones of a full adult, so possibly she wouldn't get a cycle. And these people have no reason to lie and say, we never saw her have a cycle. Who wants to lie about that? That's why this story is so jacked up. One person's lying she had a cycle, another family saying, no, we didn't see a cycle. Teeth in, teeth out. You're entitled to your opinion. But to call her a psychopath and try to compare her to the Orphan movie, which you hear the mother say, Orphan came out 1 year before Natalia's story hit the airwaves. Then you have to ask yourself, why did this story hit the airwaves? Is it just somebody spun it, saw it, and said, here, let's talk about this story? But you don't have receipts to anything. You just have a bunch of people who came in contact with this woman, girl, however you want to word it, in a short period of time. And I don't doubt that she was a nuisance, living in the apartments, going in neighbors' houses, refrigerators, popping up at their door. And it sounds creepy when you hear them spin the story. And if you didn't know any better, you would think they're talking about a full-size adult popping up every time they come home, calling the phone excessively, if you didn't know better. But the fact that she's an itty-bitty spider at 3 feet should have told you something. She didn't have anybody. She didn't have anybody. And that's the point of the story. That no matter if she was a child, preteen, adult, Natalia Grace didn't have support. She didn't have family. She was thrown out like trash from the get-go, not just with the Barnetts, but by the original family from New Hampshire and all those who came afterwards, because we don't know how many families there were. And then sometimes you're going to hear during the documentary that it seems like she was coaxed to say certain things, that she didn't have the correct answer. It seems like she was thinking before speaking, because when you are being groomed to say certain things, you will get confused. You will stutter. Damn, what am I supposed to say? Because I was supposed to say this over here. Now I got to think of what to say over here. And basically what you have done is groomed a liar. And that's the worst thing you want with a person who's already come into the world unwanted. It's to groom her to be a pathological liar. And that's what Christine did with Natalia. So we have to pray that she does not or is not a liar. Because once you've been taught to lie, I think it would be hard for you to stop. Hey, say you're 22. Hey, say this. Hey, say that. Hey, say you're crazy. Hey, say this. You're also going to hear some ugly things about her in the mental institution from people who are not wanting to be recognized as not to lose their position in the jobs at the mental facility. You have to decide if what they're saying is the truth. Because as I said, everything said about her basically is negative except for what the mans have to say about her and Mrs. DePaul. Mrs. DePaul has a special affection for her because she is also a small person and she wanted Natalia for her own, and she regrets not being able to adopt her. And she feels that if she had gotten the adoption to go through, then Natalia would have never experienced these horrible situations with the Barnetts. You're entitled to your opinion. But the one thing I focus on is the obvious. We know that she wasn't a 22-year-old when she came to the States. That's obvious. You can look at the pictures of her where she looks like a very young child. That's point blank. She wasn't 22 when she came. She wasn't 19 and she wasn't 14 when she came. You could tell she was an itty bitty spider when she came. So no matter if she didn't grow to the size of this child or had the same disease, the point is she was still a child, whether it be 14 or 15. And all dwarfs aren't the same size either. That's another thing. So it's easy to listen to the documentary of the woman that brings her child over to play with her and say, oh, well, my child was smaller. Yes, your child was smaller. Yes, your child did look younger. All that is true. All that is true. But in a court of law, if you were going to court to defend that, it would be circumstantial. Same age, same disease, but she's a little taller, face fuller, looks a little older. As Dr. Phil said, what's the difference between 8 and 14? I either love you or I don't. Because I think they were tired of her. They were tired of dealing with her, whether she was a problem child or not. expensive to continue to take care of her with the surgery she needed. And as this lady said, it would slow her down in her trying to keep up with her scholastically inclined son. More care to take care of her if she's needing help walking, needing to be carried. Because as children grow up, you don't have to carry them. That's the joy of growing up. I no longer have to carry you, push you in a stroller, stay woke. She would take up too much time of an alleged busy person, active person. They grew tired of her for whatever reason. And you will hear allegations of physical abuse between the two, Christine and Michael, in the documentary. And they lied about that and getting adoption of this Natalia. So they have their own demons to reckon with. And that's partly why Christine does not want to talk to the public and did not want to do any interviews for the docuseries, different networks, because she knows she'd have to stand account for the allegations against her and things that she and Michael lied about, such as domestic abuse. How are you going to say she's violent and you two are beating up on one another? That would be hypocritical. Oh, she's threatening. Oh, she's pushing me in the fence. Oh, she's got knives. And your husband's putting you in a headlock. Checkmate. The pot can't talk about the kettle. Because the kettle is a child. You're an adult. So what's your excuse? I pray for her journey in life that she finds happiness, that she can go out in the world and take care of herself. I pray that these people who have adopted her legally, adopted her for the right reasons, no nefarious reasons, that she can go out on her own, take care of herself. The day she decides to venture out, she can, if she has not. And that is something that I'd like to hear. Where is she now? What is she doing? Is she still living in these people's house, or is she going to go out on her own? Because I'd hate to hear some craziness about this family, that they were only taking the kids in for monetary gain. Because we're learning that about foster care, adoption. People are doing stuff for the monies, especially if you're taking a child from foster care into adoption, which we learned that with the West case. Everybody is not what they seem. And I do believe they groomed her and made her lie so they could push her out the door and go their separate ways. And I do not know if she's the cause of Michael and Christine's marriage to fall apart, but I do believe they had their own problems before she came into their lives. It's on record that they had domestic situations, and it is before she ever got in her custody, Natalia Grace. I believe the son was exaggerating in the documentary. The older son, I do not know where the other two children are, why they were not interviewed. I don't know. I have to finish the other episodes, but there's some exaggeration, I believe, in this story pertaining to her. And I'm not saying that she was a perfect kid, by no means. But if you don't have a receipt to anything, then how can I believe you? And you all are tech savvy. You made sure to always film her, accusing her of something, scolding her, which I thought was very disrespectful. Why don't you have the allegations on film? Christine, Michael. And Michael, all you did through the documentary was buck your eyes up and talk like a crazy person. But they always tell you if you watch people long enough spinning the story, you'll learn who's telling the truth and who isn't. These people are grand liars and fraudsters, and they are no different than the people who originally went to Ukraine to get her. They're no different. They tired of her and they threw her out. Mission accomplished. Adult Protective Services got involved. It went to trial, and everybody was exonerated. And this child was left to adjust to a new family. So that's all she knows is bouncing around place to place, place to place. And I believe she was told what to say from each family. Say this, say this, say this. When you get over here, say this, say this. You're grooming her. All of you groomed her to be a liar. She doesn't know any more than what somebody told her. Who she is, where she's from, what the place was like. Maybe she doesn't want to remember the orphanage. We know that it's not sunny in the Ukraine. It's not summertime in the Ukraine all the time. We know that. Because that's the point of being groomed. You say anything. You just start to make up things yourself. I feel sorry for her. Because as Dr. Phil said in the beginning of this story, common sense will tell anybody with us any type of common sense. She didn't get over here on her own. She was a child when she came here. She was an adult. And yes, she's going to have good English. She's around English-speaking people. And I'm starting to wonder if there's any truth to that. About them even going to the Ukraine, because her English is very well. And if she never had an accent with the Barnetts, that is something also to question. Because they talk about that, her not wanting to speak as not to alert them that she really didn't have a Ukrainian accent. So let's take it there. Is the woman on the film talking to Dr. Phil or the interviewer, whoever this person is that went out there looking for her in Ukraine, the mother? Is she really the mother? Did this child really come from the Ukraine? Because that is something I was questioning listening to episodes earlier. Her English is good. She speaks very well. And you would think at 6 she would, yes, know Ukrainian and have an accent at that time. And naturally, once you live in a country, you pick up on that country's accent over time. So why does she not have or did not have a Ukrainian accent as a small child coming in at 6? Was she actually born in the Ukraine? Documentation says she was. I don't know. That's the strange thing about that information. The accent. Her not knowing Ukrainian, as Michael says. What is the truth? I want to thank you for your time. I will be back later tomorrow. We will discuss episode number 2. As the episodes go forth, a lot of the information that you're going to hear about her is disturbing. The information from the mental facility, the alleged workers who spoke ill of her, the neighbors who had negative things to say about her. It's not good. I will tell you that. And naturally you will say, well, why are all these people saying these things? Everybody can't be lying. But the one thing I want you to understand is the obvious. You're talking about somebody who's been moved around from place to place as a child and displaced from place to place and having to fend for herself. Ask yourself how you would behave. You can't say. Because you're not Natalia. You've never been a foster care child. You've never been a person adopted and then attempted to be sold and given to different people, place to place to place, agencies. You don't know how you would have turned out. You don't know what your disposition would have been. And then you can't speak on the things that we can't see, such as the dirtiness, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. If we're to believe the allegations from the mental institution, has she been touched inappropriately? That's why she's talking about boys. And one of the allegations is very disgusting. Somebody had to have taught her that. Because if I want to go there, who's to say that the family in New Hampshire wasn't trying to sell her for nefarious reasons, if you get my drift? Because who sells a child that you've already adopted? Stay woke now. Who sells a child, attempts to sell a child that they adopted for $30,000? $25,000, which is so ever. See, you don't know what these people did with her. You don't know what they subjected her to. You don't know who they had around her. You don't know what type of programming that she was watching at the house. She could have been around people who were overtly touching each other, kissing each other, having sexual relations, porn. You don't know. And who's going to tell it? And that's the one thing I told the audience earlier. That's what you're not going to get pertaining to Natalia Grace. You are not going to get the truth. But the fact that they traced information that first family tried to sell her, no way you could say this is all this girl's fault and she pretended to be an adult. No way. She did what she was told to do and to say. That's obvious. Each person telling her what to say, what to say, what to say. And eventually you're going to get befuddled with the lie. And we know this about liars. They get trapped in the lie. You're either going to get trapped or you're going to become a professional liar. Take your pick. This is a sad tale. But it's a tale that's told often in foster care. The children go from house to house, house to house, house to house, home to home, home to home, and then they age out. And then people sitting there wondering, like, my God, the child went in foster care at 6, 7. Somebody should have wanted them. Yeah, somebody should have, but they didn't. Somebody decided they didn't like something about the child. Now we're calling the people, social worker, come get him. I don't want him. She won't act right. She got a bad attitude. Come get her. Next thing you know, it's 5 years later, 6 years later. Before you know it, you got a full adult exiting foster care. And by the grace of God, as this woman said to Dr. Phil, what would have happened had we not came and got her that day? Exactly. 6 years old, 8 years old, 14, it's all the same, living on her own, fending for herself, not taking care of her hygiene, her hair, not eating properly, access to running in and out of doors, cars. Anybody could have picked her up, took her, kidnapped her. See, that's what nobody's thinking about. The worst case scenario of a child living alone in an apartment in the rough side of Lafayette, Indiana. You want to talk about something, talk about that. What the hell would possess you to put a child out into an apartment and lie and say she's an adult? And I believe that was the ruse. Let's find a way to get rid of this kid. Let's make up stuff that she did and make her tell people she's 22 so we can get rid of her. We're done. Tired. I don't want to be bothered with her anymore. But in the end, she had no business living on her own. And frankly, she's lucky to be alive, because all it took for this lonely vessel was to hook up with the wrong person, get in the wrong car, let the wrong person come in her apartment. Nobody would have ever found her being 3 feet tall. It is by the grace of God that Natalia Grace is alive, because she had to have been a very lonely person. Nobody coming to visit her, no friends, no family. Nobody taking her to the movies, taking her grocery shopping, taking her to get her hair done, taking care of her, tending to her needs. And as Dr. Fields says, just imagine her actual age at 8, living alone in an apartment with no one. Michael and Christine Barnett should be in jail for gross negligence and child abuse. And that's the bottom line. And they do not deserve children, period. And that family, the first family, they deserve to be locked up as well for attempted child trafficking, selling of a child, and any other charges they can find pertaining to Natalia Grace. And any other families that had access to her that abused her in any form or fashion, they deserve to go to jail as well. And let's pray that none of these people have any access to anybody's child or grandchildren. Will Christine Barnett come out and speak pertaining to what happened and to discuss any contradictory information? Because it has come to light that things that she and Michael have told over the years are not facts and are not the truth pertaining to allegations against Natalia Grace. Will she decide to come forward, Miss Christine Barnett, and say, yes, I lied. I made up stories. I just no longer wanted to take care of her. And I made her lie and call the police on herself. I made her lie and say she was trying to threaten us. Will she ever tell the truth, Christine Barnett? And will Michael Barnett ever tell the truth and stop this overly excessive theatrics for TV? Because the one thing I've learned about people coming around asking questions, in the end, it's just a version. I've told you all this 1,000 times. True crime is just a version. He said and she said. His truth and her truth. And the truth somewhere in the middle. And everything's about interpretation. What I see, you don't see. How she behaved with one, she may not behave with another. Stay woke now. Could it be she was sinister acting, sexually overt? But once she got with the last family, she thought, I better straighten up so I can keep these people around. Who's to say? I want to thank you for your time. Please go to my community board to take the said polls pertaining to Natalia Grace, Michael, and Christine Barnett. Join me tomorrow with episode number 2. We will chop up the information. All episodes have been aired on the YouTube network and also via my community page. I have shared them this evening. And later this summer, Natalia will give you her version of what happened in the house with the Barnetts. You entitled to your interpretation of what is the truth. If she's telling the truth or lying, if the Barnetts are telling the truth or lying, the allegations from other neighbors, the children, people that worked in the mental facility, relatives, you're entitled to your interpretation. And once again, if you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App, all stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. Thank you for your time. And prayers for the people who have not been recovered in that Davenport, Iowa apartment building. One African-American male has been recovered. 2 are still missing. Prayers for them. Prayers for those who were able to survive. Prayers for the woman who lost her leg. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. Please be aware of your surroundings. Thank you, sweetheart. God bless all of you. I will be bringing you more stimulating content. Breaking news. Please take the polls on my channel. I like to know how people think Some of the questions may not be to your liking, but it is to get a general idea of how people think. Because in the end, this story I'm spinning here is the reason why I put the polls up, to see how people think. Because we are all different. We all entitled to agree to disagree. Do you believe Natalia Grace knew she was an adult when she entered the United States? Have these people lied on Natalia Grace, the Barnetts? The other people who have given commentary in the documentary, have they lied on her and made her out to be a villain? Or do we have just a wounded bird who was shuffled along from place to place and had no identity and possibly acted out not so great behavior and just got in the wrong hands of some very sinister adults who had no business rearing children? What is the truth? Thank you for your time. You have been listening to The Vault. Exhale.